Hey everyone, this is Jaime right here at Madlit Musings, and today I have with us T.I. Lowe from Tyndale Publishing. She's got some amazing books out. If you've not heard of her, then don't go anywhere. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thank you for having me. I always enjoy
Yes.
talking to you.
Oh, it's super fun, and I always like talking to you too. And we're like the perfect mishmash of northern versus southern accents.
Yes,
And so I don't know that I have an accent, but
you
you
do.
definitely do. Do I?
Yeah, you do.
So do you. I love it. I love it. What state are you in again?
South Carolina.
It is South Carolina. That's what I thought, but I was like, well, the minute I say it, it's going to be wrong, and that's
Mhm.
not good.
I had a Canadian reader last week. She said, "I love your accent because I did a reel where a video."
Yeah.
And, she says, here in Canada, we don't have accents." I'm like, "Yes, you do."
Yes, you do. It was funny because I've heard how people around here will be like, or people who aren't from around here will say, like, when you say Minnesota, it's like Minnesota. And I'm like, we don't talk like that. And then the other day I was sitting on a picnic table and this guy walked by and he started shouting across the street to somebody. He goes, yeah, are you down here from Minnesota? And I'm like, oh, we do talk like that. Oh, funny. Anyway, well, we're not here to talk about accents, no matter how fun it is. Although
It is fun.
one of the things that I do have fun with this podcast is we don't like pre-script anything. So, kind of go a little bit wherever the wind blows
I like that.
and chit chat. So, but the book that you have coming out, tell us about it. What's its title? What's it about?
Well, it is Low Country Lost, and if you like Sweet Home Alabama
Mhm.
and shows like Fixer Upper and let's say Hometown. It's a mix match of both of those combined. Our leading lady of this book is her name's Ava Lee, and most of the Fixer Upper shows, the lady normally the host she does the design aspect, but I did it a flip on it, and our girl she is the general contractor, so she's the one that's going to be wearing the tool belt.
Atta
And
girl.
oh yeah, I know. I had such a fun time putting
Yeah.
her in that role. And so in South Carolina, she's known about this ghost town all of her life, and
Mhm.
she's even gone, wandering and exploring it with her grandmother. So when she's older and she has this business, general contracting business, and the opportunity comes about that she can flip the entire town, and so she brings her crew in and they start from building to building and start redoing the entire town. Well, you know, and the one thing about it with your books, Jamie, and mine, with this one particularly, is exploring abandoned places
Right.
and old places and
Yeah.
hearing the history. Just walking around them, you'll find like little trinkets, like say a pin or something on the,
Mhm.
and there's a story there.
Right. Right.
So entire time they're flipping this town, they keep discovering little stories and little clues about the town, little mysteries. And one of the opening lines of the book, it says it tells what an abandoned how a place is, a abandoned building is, or a ghost town is a wholly a once thriving town, wholly or almost completely abandoned. And
Right.
she asked the question, she says, "Can a person be a ghost town?" And
Mhm.
she says, "I think I am." And
Yeah.
so that's the prologue, and then the whole book is her exploring her abandonment issues.
Right.
And so she starts renovating this town. She's going to renovate herself in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's great. I actually had a chance to read an early copy of this, and that was super great. And I think it was fun because um, we both love the aspect of ghost towns in our books. Obviously, very different slants on them.
Yeah.
But I did love the concept of abandonment and the reflection between what this town represented to Amelie and then what she saw in herself and her own background. And she really has gone through the ringer. Like as the book unfolds, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a lot of stuff that starts to unfold with her character and I kept going, "Oh my, oh my. Well, how much more can this poor woman take?"
When we were going through the concept of it with my my agent and the publisher,
Hmm.
they said, "This is a lot for her to go through. How are we going to be able to, present this to the reader?" And I said, "Well, we're going to give them a little bit along and along because
Right.
it's so much to take in." So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
she went through a lot.
Yeah. There's a lot to take in, and yet, and unfortunately, it was relatable too. It didn't seem like it was too much, like, oh, nobody would have gone through that much stuff. It was like, I think a lot of readers who read it, I know I did, as you're reading it, you're going, that is kind of how life unfortunately tends to treat us, where it's like one thing compounds on top of another thing. And it's this ripple effect of inadvertent consequences, so to speak, that start happening because this happened, and that it's a domino effect,
Yeah.
with life. And then all of a sudden you're left with a ghost town
Yeah.
in your soul, a
I know.
soulful ghost town. You have some fun characters in this book, though. I enjoyed that. And then there is a hero.
Oh yeah.
There
I
is a
will.
hero.
And I will
Tell
not
us.
try to do his accent.
No, don't try and do his accent, but do tell us about this Irish hero.
Yeah. So Avery's, her Rowan is her high school sweetheart, which
Hmm.
actually started, they were best friends in elementary school and leading up. And I like the idea of friends before a relationship.
Yeah.
And they, had everything that they thought they would want. And, things were going great. And then these, one devastation after another devastation, and it just tore them apart.
Right.
And so their relationship didn't make it through that. So there's also a second chance aspect to this
Right.
story. But he Rowan, what can we say about Rowan? He's just
Well,
a
he
good,
rides a motorcycle.
yeah, Irishman on a motorcycle. He's a engineer for the project, so that
Yeah.
brings them back together. And
Hmm.
he's got some things he's hiding, and they'll be discovered along the way too. So I mean, it's hard to, what do you say about these characters? But
Right. I
he's,
know. Yeah.
yeah, one of those good old boys that you root for, and
Right. Right.
he'll open up to his hurt too as well. And
Hmm.
the subject that it's a, I know it's like how much do you tell about the book versus let the read,
Right.
but when when you're dealing with loss,
Hmm.
especially from a mother's point of view, but there's a father, there's a
Right.
father's point of view of it as well. So I wanted to
Mhm.
explore his, but so it leads into his eventually that he
Right.
talks about it.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting when you look at, when you look at the concept of loss, of abandonment. I think grief and abandonment often go hand in hand. Um, because grief is, having lost my own mom, having gone through some miscarriages in my life, and just some other elements of loss. You go through this, and it's really a solo journey because it's your own emotional journey. And so to share it with someone else, there's part of you that wants to, and then there's another part that you pull away or they pull away, and then you're kind of just left out on your own to
Mhm.
maneuver through this lake of grief, I guess. And yeah, you feel abandoned and you feel alone, and you don't want to be alone, but yet you want to be alone, and it's just a mishmash of emotion. And I have no idea what I'm trying to say by that, but
I
that's
don't think anybody in the process of grieving, and I lost my mom
Mhm.
2015. I lost my sister this November will be 2 years ago,
Right.
and it's just like you said. And, you're putting all this together to say it, but that's what grief is. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just like you're confused on whether she should reach out and speak about it, or
Right.
and then just like Ailey, a lot of times it's like, well, nobody wants to hear it. It
Right.
makes people
Yeah.
uncomfortable to talk about it.
Right.
And so,
Right. Well, and
it's
everybody has their own advice
yeah.
on how to deal with it, you
Mhm.
know? And there seems like there's a calendar to grief. Like everybody has, like, you have been grieving too long, it's time to move on, or you haven't been grieving long enough, how are you moving on so fast? And there's almost this unspoken sort of judgment around grief too, rather than looking at each journey as its own unique, special thing.
I saw not too long ago, and I should have wrote it down that way I can share it because it really would go with this. But something about like grief doesn't actually go away; you just figure out. each day is another day that you figure out how to
Hmm.
handle it, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
But I wish I would have wrote that down. I have to look it up.
Yeah. I've seen something similar to that, but I get what you're saying. And it's one of those things that doesn't go away. You learn how to live with it and how to function through it.
Yeah,
Um,
we're
and then when
talking.
you have faith, you can, hopefully be able to put it in a
Yeah.
perspective of faith too. But that's not always possible either,
Mm-mm.
depending on the person that you've lost or whatever the situation is. So,
Yeah.
wow. Well, I don't want everybody to think this is a super heavy book
Oh, I know.
because
Well,
it's not,
it
but
was
it
like
does
I said,
deal with some of the deeper themes.
and it is. And one thing I try to do with my books is I do address some heavy topics, but then
Hmm.
with the side characters are my best friends. I
Yeah.
always feel like they are my comic relief. They're my way to get through the heavier parts of the books. And so we've
Hmm.
got some characters, and we even have a dog this time. And
I was just gonna say you put a dog in there too.
he was quite fun. I was telling you before we came on here
Uh-huh.
that I had a cat tell me pretty much I was taking her home yesterday.
Yep.
So I'm already figuring out she's got to be in my next book. She's quite a character. We named her Gertrude because she was a warrior. Want me to take her home yesterday, but yeah, and this one, his name's Preacher, the
Yep.
dog, and
Yep.
he is a thieving. They call him he's a thief, and they call him preacher. So that was fun. And
Yeah.
then another fun aspect. Have you ever thought about like if you were stuck in the Walmart overnight, or if you had full access, full run to a town all alone? What would be some things you would do while you had that free
Hmm.
access? And so
Hmm.
in the ghost town, while they're flipping it, Averly, she does some silly things that, typically you wouldn't be able to get away with in a town. Like
Right.
the courthouse steps, she decides she wants to have a picnic on the courthouse steps one day. And then there's a marquee sign at the chapel, and she puts puns on them all throughout the book. And then what else did they? Oh, she had a dance party in a library while they were
Yeah.
in late one night. So
Hmm.
there's some
Well,
fun.
she has a fun partner too. I'm trying to remember his name, but he was quite a colorful
Des-
character.
Desmond.
Yes, Desmond. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed his character. I just thought he was such a fun side character that totally got her.
Mhm.
Um, but it was a platonic relationship too at the same time. It's just like that one good friend that you have that just gets you.
Mhm. And he's like the designer of the team.
Hmm.
And I have a lot of guy friends, and so
Yeah.
I always, I like to explore that there was a female and a male, and they could be friends and nothing
Right.
more. That
Right.
was fun to put together.
Yeah. I love that. So how much did you have to learn about flipping houses and flipping places and general contracting? And does that come naturally to you, or is that like this foreign land?
Well, if I'm watching TV, some of my favorite shows are the fixer upper shows because
Okay.
I love to flip something. I love to
Yeah.
decorate, so that's my thing. But so I've learned a lot through that. But then, like when it was time to, construct a wall and know how many studs to go in it, I had to do some research for that. But
Yeah.
one of my favorite shows all time is my family's favorite shows too. Is Mysteries of the Abandoned, and I think I told you
Yes.
about it one time before. But you
Yes.
can watch it on the Science Channel, Discovery Channel,
Hmm.
in Apple TV. Just type up mysteries of the abandoned,
Hmm.
and this TV show goes around the entire world, and they explore these abandoned places, and they tell you all the history about them.
Yeah.
Man, that's just fascinating. So a lot of times, like the theater, all the little things that come through the buildings that they go through.
Hmm.
I was inspired by watching that show.
Yeah. 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 I've watched that show a few times with our family, and it's almost eerie. Like they're not intended to be eerie, and they're not developed or produced like a creepy abandoned. But it is. It's just like you're this whole life that took place that's no longer there anymore, whether it's a office building or a church or a theater or a Ferris wheel in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
You're like, what? What? And some of these structures are weird too. Like they're just like they're like, what? What is that? So, ghost town. Have you ever actually stayed in a ghost town?
I've not stayed in one. I
Okay.
want to. Man, that would be cool. I did explore one in
Mhm.
Dorchester, is near
Okay.
Charleston, South Carolina, and I even I've got pictures. I'll have to send you some so you can see. But it was a colony that it was on the Ashley River, and
Okay.
it was founded 1696.
Okay.
1696. I mean, so it's old, old.
Old. Old. Old.
And it was abandoned at the beginning of the Revolutionary War. But the
Okay.
only thing left is the bell tower. The walls of a tabby fort are there. I mean,
Okay.
there's not completely, but you
Sure.
can see where like the foundation of the houses were, like
Uh-huh.
where the town square would be, and then
Yeah.
there's a graveyard. And some of the gravestones are so weathered, it's washed all the information off of it. But
Yeah.
walk around it, it's like, you know, people you could, I guess our writer's mind you start
Mhm.
imagining people walking around with the long skirts and
Yeah.
baskets, stuff like
Yep.
that.
Yeah. You kind of wish that you could go back in a time machine,
Yeah.
and see when those ghost towns were bustling and alive and just witness it, somehow just be an observer or something. But
Have you, for your book research,
mhm.
like
Yeah.
what was one of the favorite? You've done a lot. I mean, that you always have a place in your favorite thing to explore.
Oh, I love ghost towns. I love old buildings. I love going into places that not aren't necessarily abandoned, but have ghost stories attached to them. And part of that's not because I'm like this voracious believer in ghosts, but every ghost story is riddled with history, right? So even if you don't believe in ghosts and you don't believe that, there's this, that, and the other specters around, they come from something. Like the story started with someone and it's turned into a legend, so to speak. And that's what I love. I love to go in and then I'll ask what the ghost stories are. And then usually the tour guides or whatever automatically assume I'm like a ghost hunter or something, and I'll go with it. I'll just go with it. I will
Tell
full
me.
on, yeah, and I'll agree with everything they say because the more you do, the more they give you, and you get so much history, and story and legend and lore. And so I love all of that. But I have camped in a ghost town.
Abby,
I
where?
I camped in a ghost town in Montana,
Mm.
and it's Bannock. It's a fairly popular ghost town, but it's Bannock, Montana. It was right in the heart of the gold rush. I mean, it's everything you would
Probably
want.
been in the Mysteries of the Abandoned.
It probably has. In fact, I'm sure I've seen it. I know I've seen it on a couple shows. It's known for its vigilante justice because I mean, you have stagecoach robbers, you have gold, you have a corrupt sheriff, you have the hangman's noose. I mean, and they still have the gallows there, and old buildings, an old saloon, and
Out on the stream.
there is a stream. Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
know. Um,
Yep, yep, it's right on a stream, and it was really fun. I love staying there. I totally freaked my son out when we stayed there and camped because he was camping with us, and he was, I think, 10 at the time, and he had to go use the only facility in the area, which is the old-fashioned outhouse. So he ran and did that in the dark with his flashlight, came running back, and I said, "Did you see her?" And he goes, "What?" I said, "Did you see her?" And he goes, "See who?" I said, "The woman that was up on the hillside, the woman dressed in white." And he goes, "Mom, stop. There was no woman." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's the ghost. It's the Bannock ghost, the woman in white. She's actually the guardian of all the little boys because some of the old miner ghosts that used to gold mine along the stream, they come and they steal little boys. And so if you
Sweet
see her,
mama.
I said, that's a warning to run." And he was like, my daughter's going, "Mom, knock it off." And she's going, "Buddy," she's like, "this is why you don't want to have a mom who's a writer for a mom because she makes this stuff up." Well, then, of course, there's a storm in the middle of the night. And I didn't realize it, but our camper was right by a tree. So in the middle of the night, the tree branch was scraping the
Oh,
side. And my son, he like creeps over and he wakes me, "Mommy, Mom, the woman in white, she's outside. She's scraping on the side. What do we do?" And I said, "Close your eyes and hope she goes away." I'm like the cruelest mom in ghost towns. I'm just like, oh, did you see that? Oh,
I didn't sleep the rest of the night.
no, I don't think he did. He still talks about it. He's like, that was just the meanest thing you ever did to me ever, mom. And I'm like, right, but it made it fun.
He'll never forget that trip, but
No,
God,
no, he won't. He won't. But
ghosting him now, that's pretty cool.
yeah. But it is kind of cool though, when you told me you were doing a book with a ghost town in it. I instantly in my mind am thinking Western because most people associate ghost towns with the Western
Yeah.
America. And I don't think a lot of us realize that there's ghost towns and stuff all throughout the South and all that area. So I was like, oh, this was cool. It was really cool to read about it. So
It was
I like,
fun. That was some funny researching, abandoned places and ghost
yeah,
town.
yeah, that's cool. Well, and anybody who's ever read one of your books knows too that if you like romance,
Mhm.
romance is a little bit delicious
Oh, well, thank you.
in a nice, faith friendly sort of way. I'll put that in there. It's a clean, delicious.
Thank
But you always have the fun relationship aspects and the tension between the hero and the heroine. I appreciate because it's believable romance too,
That's
you
right.
know.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that because I'm not a huge romance reader, but when I do, I like to read one that I can see actually happening, and that's what yours do. I mean, they're real to life on the
Mhm.
page romances, so that's cool. So, all right, well, the name of the book is Low Country Lost, and it releases September 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And this podcast is airing in August, so that means people can go ahead and pre-order.
Yeah.
And
Pre-order anywhere that, you get your books.
yeah, get your books anywhere you want. And what's the best way for readers to stay in touch with you?
TILO.com. I have a newsletter, and if you sign
Okay.
up for it, it normally goes out once a month, maybe twice when I have a book release coming out, just to give you
Okay.
news if there's a big deal going on.
Yep.
Uh, there's an events and news tab.
Hmm.
It'll show you all the dates and where I'm going to be for the book tour this year, and then Instagram. I love Instagram. I'm a short and sweet kind of social media gal.
Okay.
'Cause we've got to write, so we don't have a
Right.
lot. Even, I
Right.
have to scroll and see what everybody's doing, and,
Hmm.
it's easy to do on Instagram, but I'm on Twitter, Facebook, do a little bit of TikToking, so
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, everyone who's listening, you're definitely going to want to pick up this book. It's well worth your time. It's got some depth, it's got some romance, it's got some humor, and it's got a ghost town. So I think it's kind of like pretty much the perfect equation.
yeah.
I
I
think
really
so.
appreciate you endorsing it too.
Oh, it was my pleasure, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. When I got the early copy, I think it was middle of this last winter or something, and so it was
Oh,
just it was a great read to just kind of sit down in the evenings and read. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. So
thank you. Oh, I
yeah.
have to tell you, so you got the PDF copy, or did they send
Hmm.
you one?
I
Did it
got a
have
PDF.
oh,
Yep.
did it have a map in it?
I don't think so.
Well, it has a map in it now of the town,
Aha.
and my daughter, 18-year-old daughter, drew it.
No way. That's awesome. That's so cool.
I'll show you. I don't
Yeah.
listeners won't be able to see it, but it's in the beginning of the book. I drew one, but it's just like square, so I would know where to map out
Right.
finding it. But
Right.
my publisher said, "Well, wouldn't it be neat to have an actual map of it in the book?"
Hmm.
So I got my daughter to do it.
Oh, that's great.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I like books where they have maps too, and I think with this, oh yeah, that's great. She's good. Wow, look at that. I
I was
love it.
thank
I'm
you.
impressed too. I'm impressed too. It's good too because I will say when I was reading it, I was trying to picture it in my mind where everything was laid out because you are fairly specific with here's this building, and this building's going to become this in the town and all of that. So I think a map would be that's
Yeah, I
genius.
needed it as a writer, so I'm glad
Yeah.
the reader will have it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great.
My daughter drew it.
And that makes it even more special too, right? It's a family affair. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on with us today, and we look forward to more books in the future too.
Well, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed chatting with you.